welcome back to another episode of Everyday Bubbly with Allegra and Taylor. We are so happy to have you for part 2A of our 3-part money series. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
I always love it, like when the football players like make
they're like touchdowns
and they're like they do the money sign.
But yeah, we are doing our touchdown dances for $, $. Why is there no like cent sign easily accessible on like computers, or you're like
probably because the cent is like an out.
Cents are out?
Yeah.
Dollars are in, cents are out?
When was the last time
you heard it here first, y'all? Cents are out.
Cents are out. Like, I have a couple of pennies and like a quarter like in my cup holder in my car, and I'm like, those are the only cents.
I can't remember the last time I actually held cash in my hands, but when I do have cash, I love being that bitch, giving exact change.
I don't want more change.
No, I don't want more change. I will make everybody in line behind me wait for me to count out 37 cents.
That's why you don't need a cent sign.
So everything should just be round numbers.
Yes. Or followed by a dollar sign. Like when you do $10.50, it's like the $10.50. You're not going to put a cent sign after.
You're not going to put a cent sign at the end. You're right. Well,
and if you're saying like, oh, I'll Venmo you that 50 cents, like
then you're petty. You're a petty little bitch.
You don't need that.
You don't need it.
I will gladly be like, keep the change.
You can
give
have
it back
it
to me.
You
I don't want
it. Well, welcome back to part 2. Last week we talked all about spending and debts and just like how even like splitting expenses with a partner, that the like going out, your money leaving you side of things, the boring, yucky thing that we think about the most.
Yeah.
This week we're talking about money coming in.
The incoming
of money. So we're going to be talking.
When you feel so elated on payday, when you see that green number in your bank account.
Mm-hmm. So talking about saving those extra dollar bills you have after paying off all your debts. We're talking about just income in general, negotiating for raises, talking a little bit about different income streams, that whole business. And then as a reminder for next week, we will be talking about investing. And that's 401ks, Roth IRAs, insert combination of letters and numbers here. Let's get into it. Allie, what are we drinking?
Oh. Well, we are still on the Timmy Jam. I feel like
Rin Tin Tin, Rinny. What's Tiny
like my brain is short circuiting.
We can only say gin and jam in so many different ways.
I mean, I love saying gin jamboree because that just makes me happy. But I did just watch Dune last night, the first one, and I just have been thinking about Chalamet.
I call him Timothy. I call him Timothy Chalamet, and there is no reason.
Timothy Chalamet?
Why? Why do I say Chalamet?
So we're still on the gin jammers train. Honestly, and we're not getting off.
I was like, I might never get off of the gin jammer train.
We might be on this for a while.
This is my new person. Gin is my new personality trait, and I'm so sorry.
My God, do I miss wine.
Yeah, it sucks that you can't have any.
I'm just counting down the days. Memorial Day is what we said, right?
Mm-hmm. So you are
another 2 months.
That's a long time from now. Well,
is
gin,
that really?
I think it makes sense.
I thought it was 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
It's 6 to 8. I actually just ended my 8-week sprint, but I don't think I'm really going to change much. I might incorporate. I need to be more conscious now that I've had avocado and salmon in the past 24 hours. So I just want to observe.
How did you feel afterwards?
I felt fine. I do have a bit of a headache today, but that could be the gin jamborees or the fact that I didn't eat breakfast. So there's a lot of factors at play. And I took my iron supplement this morning and then ate straight after. There's a lot of things at play that I need to also keep in consideration. But
what are we cheersing to?
We are cheersing to. I don't know if we have the same cheers today, but I am cheersing. We are recording this episode on April 6th, so we are a little, coming at you, blast from the past right now. But 2 days from now, is the great solar eclipse of 2024. And it is crossing right over Central Texas. Actually, bummer enough, the line of totality is on the other side of my neighborhood. So I have to drive across to the other side of my neighborhood so I can I want to experience pitch black night.
Yeah.
I don't want any of this 99.99% shit. I want it to be nighttime.
You know what? I think this is my cheers too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to my family's lake house, which is right outside of Burnet, Texas, on Lake Buchanan. And we're supposed to get like almost 4 minutes of totality.
That's sick.
So I'm so stoked.
I'm so excited. That's what I saw on Texas Monthly's Instagram that they're expecting 1 million people.
I heard that.
To be here.
So that's why I'm going tomorrow.
Yes.
To like avoid the traffic of Monday.
Traffic's supposed to be nerds. So I'm just really excited to see that. I mean, so there was an eclipse. Eclipses actually happen like every 6 months, but we just can't see them.
So this is a big solar eclipse. There was a lunar eclipse, I think,
2 weeks ago.
year.
No, there was a lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago.
But there was a bigger one last year too, and the eclipse path was the opposite direction.
No, that was in 2017. There was a big one in 2017.
I swear.
Well, maybe you're right. I did say like eclipses happen every 6 months. But there was, I don't not believe you.
No, but I'm so curious now.
There was another big eclipse.
Oh, it was also a solar eclipse, but it just went the opposite. Like this time is going this way.
Yeah.
And this time it went the other way.
There was a big eclipse, not a full totality eclipse, but there was a big eclipse that crossed over also in 2017.
Yeah, that was
a really big thing.
The last totality. Yeah.
It is a really cool thing that we have been able to like be present in both. And
I just saw that the next one after this year will probably be 2044.
Who knows where I'll be.
For total
solar eclipse.
I might be dead.
We all might be dead by then, but who knows? As the esoteric woo girl that I am, I just think it's really interesting. I think I've said this before on the pod that 2 weeks ago there was a lunar eclipse. This week that we in the time that we are recording, this past Monday started Mercury retrograde. We just entered Aries season, and then we have this full totality lunar or solar eclipse coming up. And we are also, I listened to a podcast about this recently. We're entering several new like planetary cycles. Like we're entering into like a new 600-year cycle, a new 14-year cycle, and another longer cycle that has implications for like society at large and not just like the individual. So I'm just nerding out about all of the things going on in the ethos.
Okay. No.
So yeah.
Science, man.
Science. It's crazy. Bill Nye is going to be here.
Yeah, he is. Actually, this is going to air after. I was going to say, don't forget, wear your glasses if you're going to go look at it. But
hopefully you wore your glasses.
This warning will have been long past. So hopefully
you wore them.
Hopefully you are.
Yeah,
so I guess that's my cheers too, was spending time with my family. We're all working remote. But I was also going to cheers to some books that I'm reading.
Ooh, yes.
Because I just finished a really amazing book called Red Rising that is very dystopian. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Hunger Games. I think you would really like it if you haven't read it.
I haven't read it.
But it's a trilogy. So Red Rising is the first. The second book is called Iron Sun, I think. And then the third is called Morning Star. But it's about dystopian. They're living on Mars. They've also, their society has done other planetary colonization.
Okay.
But there's different caste system of different colors that they're called. So he's a red, golds are at the top. And it's basically like he's reborn as a gold and is infiltrating from the inside. And it's very...
That sounds cool.
It's very good.
I love a good my favorite genre is dystopian future society.
Yeah.
Preferably in like the teen, young adult genre, because I feel like they're somehow darker even than adult ones.
It gets pretty dark, but like the golds, they're all like sorted into different houses, but all the houses are like Roman gods. So there's like
so cool.
Apollo and Mercury and Venus and...
That's cool.
Yeah, so I think you would like it a lot. But I read it in like 3 or 4 days.
Do you have
a
physical copy or just a Kindle copy?
I just had a Kindle.
All right, well.
But I might buy the trilogy, so if I get the physical ones.
Let me know.
And I'm about to start the Throne of Glass series, so that's a big...
You're in your literary era right now.
All my fantasy books.
I'm here for it. I honestly, I love a good fantasy.
Yeah.
So cheers. As we said, we are diving in to part 2 of our money
Money series. So I'm curious on, let's start with like the basics of income streams. I feel like that's kind of where you start when you're looking at like the money that you have coming in.
Yeah.
Obviously, job is first.
I'm a corporate girly, so yes.
Yep. Salary, same. I have a corporate job and a salary that I make. But sometimes salary isn't enough.
No, I agree. Yes, I agree. I'm not sure what the right word to have said there was, but I agree with you.
But sometimes you find that your cost of living or your way of living has higher expenses and you need to figure out ways to bring in more revenue. So I'm curious, like, do you have any outlets that you bring in additional income outside of your job?
No, I actually just have one W-2. I have dabbled in the freelance lifestyle for a little bit. I did have one other client. This was like 2 years ago. Didn't like it. Doing what I was doing in my paid 9-to-5 role, but I like tried to do it as a freelancer. Didn't like it. I do really want to diversify my income streams and find a side hustle, as they say. I actually, fun fact about me, I break my goals down into like 12-week sprints. And in my 12-week sprint, it was like find a side hustle.
Yeah.
And I just like I don't know what I would want to do. I don't know. I don't have anything else. I thought about like, I'm a yoga teacher. Like, do I want to teach yoga just like on the side or something like that?
Yeah.
And I don't want to commodify some of the things I feel really passionately about. And I worry that if I were to teach yoga, that might happen.
What about, I mean, I know that you've done like some babysitting, but is that just
I guess
like...
that does count. I do babysit for like one specific family occasionally. Yeah. So I guess that is technically another revenue
It's probably not
stream.
like enough that you're like reporting it on your taxes or anything like that.
No,
I'm like, sorry IRS.
If I make
that's like I dog sit.
$500 a year, I would be surprised.
Like I dog sit and I will get some extra income, but really for me it's like all kind of like Venmo cash based, not enough to look.
Report.
I don't get a tax form for it. I'm like, oh my God, I hope the IRS don't come for me.
No, but
it's pennies.
It's pennies.
You don't need that.
No, but I hate that we are in a place that we like need to have a second job, because a lot of times your first job does not pay you that much. And again, as corporate girlies, we have there are other benefits. We have health insurance, we have retirement, et cetera, et cetera. But I personally would love to explore new revenue streams. Yeah. Maybe in a perfect world, one day we'll be able to monetize this podcast, but like we're nowhere near that point yet.
Yeah. But I would agree. And I feel like I've done some of the freelance stuff, but it always ends up just hurting me on the tax front, because you're just like, you put in like that $1,000, $2,000 additional job that you got, and it's like, okay, now you got to pay full taxes on that.
So my boyfriend, my partner, whatever the right phrase is for somebody you've been together, my lover, my beau, whatever the right phrase is for somebody you've been with for 6 years, he has been a full-time freelancer in the past. Like, it was not a corporate boy.
I did it too.
You were a full-time freelancer?
For the first...
I never knew that.
2-3 years of my career. Actually, I take that back. Forefront in 2018 was my first W-2 that I ever got.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait,
Everything
that's wild.
else was hustling for those 1099s.
Yeah, and he had to pay so much in taxes, which you don't think about as a salary.
I paid thousands of dollars my first like 3-4 years of my career on my taxes, because I wasn't smart enough to set up like paying my taxes on a quarterly basis, which you can do if you're a freelancer. I didn't. So tax season came around, I'd be like, okay, $6,000 of taxes. Like, that's what I
think Nick had to pay like $20,000 one year. And I will say, new thing, I'm sure, I mean, this is after tax season, so you probably already know this, but for future reference, he actually got a tax credit this year for being self-employed. So I think that's a new thing that the IRS has been rolling out with the rise of influencers and creators and all of these different like revenue streams. I do think you get a tax credit.
I mean, I'm not lying. I'm still looking into how I can be on like OnlyFans or something.
I mean, yeah, I would love, honestly, if we could if anybody in our audience is either on OnlyFans or is a full-time content creator, and you are comfortable talking like finances and what that income streams look like for you, we would love to have you on and do like a little interview. I do know I have full-time content creators in my circle. I am not direct friends with them, but they are in my greater circle. And I will say that they make very good money.
Yeah, I still can't get over that one I showed you. That was like a girl, she's like on OnlyFans, and her monthly income was like $2 million. I was like, are you
that is
kidding?
And I'm pretty sure my response to you when you said that is like, I will lick I-35. That's our very big highway. I will lick it all across all 8 lanes of traffic topless for $2 million. I'll do it. I would do it right now. I would do it right fucking now. Give me a car. I'll drive it right now.
Go.
But no, I think that there's you said you dog sit, you Rover, I believe.
I do Rover, yeah. Used to do a app called Dog Vacay, and then that one shuttered, and Rover's kind of the new one. And, I've definitely scaled back on what I've done for the app. I live in a house now with a dog door, so it's a little bit easier to have dogs boarded in my house. I have 3 dogs myself, and it just takes a little bit of like a meet and greet, but I'm like, I'm already taking care of 3 dogs a day. Like, what's another 1 dog into the mix? And I have a couple of repeat clients that I now really focus on. I've kind of turned my settings down, and honestly what I've done too is I've increased my rate. So the ones that I do get, I'm getting paid better for it.
Yeah.
So
I think that there's so many so also, like I said,
dog walking is one too. And like my sister used to do that because she just like, her job was really flexible during the day, and she loved just going to other people's houses and walking their dogs for them because she just already was kind of active. I could actually see you like,
I would love
there's
that. There's
probably people in your neighborhood that might want it.
Yeah,
like,
I should probably do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I might look into now. Like I said, my partner has done the full freelance route. He is like dabbling in that right now. And I know that your partner is not he's not a salaried employee.
He owns his own business. Right. And so just what I was going to say. I'm like, I wonder if he should hire Nick like as a freelancer, because he's really needing marketing help with his.
We can talk about that after. Yeah.
Yeah. But he owns his own business. And so it's up for him to kind of manage like schedule and his employees and grow the business through marketing. He's like trying to take marketing courses right now to like really get more proficient in getting more leads and getting more opportunities his way. And then occasionally he'll like pick up an odd job or 2 to go and do himself, like the work, which is, for him, TV hanging business. But
he also dabbles in like the gig economy, I guess they call it, like doing DoorDash stuff.
He does, DoorDash. He's done some event work, like whether it's events that I'm producing or other events. He'll be like a gig worker there, like a bartender, because he has his TABC license. So there's a lot of other kind of opportunities that you can make. One area I would personally love to learn more about, and maybe we can get a person on the podcast who's doing this, is kind of the Amazon hustle of like
the drop shipping side of things.
Of finding a solution of a product and helping get it manufactured and sold on Amazon. And you're kind of just like the middleman between manufacturer and selling. So
yeah, I think that there's so many different avenues. Like I, for example, work for a startup. So my manager, my boss is an entrepreneur, is creating a company. I've worked at agencies in the past. So that's a route that people go down to make money. And when you are a freelancer, in a way, depending on what your skill set is, you are an agency of one. I think that's really interesting. I think like there's the service industry, and I truly have thought about picking up a few, I've never worked in service before, so take that with a grain of salt, but I have thought about trying to work at like a local winery or something like that, or a wine shop, and just pick up a few shifts because it's a topic that I care strongly about.
I think what you just said, like find where your passions are. If it's not like in your 9-to-5 job, and hobbies or passions and things you're really interested in, and see if there's any additional outlets that could pay for you just being immersed in that. I think wine is a really good one. We were just talking at drinks the other day of like, possibly going and getting some of wine education courses so that we could speak to it and possibly get, side jobs in that field. Or
like what I said earlier about, I don't personally want to do yoga teaching because it's just not where I want to be. But like yoga is something I feel very passionate about. And like it would be an obvious next step to just deepen my practice by being able to teach other people and like picking up a few shifts.
Or maybe being like maybe not a full-time instructor, but like subbing for others and stuff. Yeah.
And I think that like we are so interested in different income streams because you can only, to get to your goals sometime, you can only save so much at a certain income. At a certain point, like you can't cut things out anymore to get closer to your goals. You need to make more money to get closer to your goals. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's nothing inherently bad about wanting to make more money.
And so if you're interested in like making more money, but maybe you don't necessarily have the time to take on other ventures, I think the next step is preparing to have a conversation about asking for a raise.
Yes.
Which can be so uncomfortable if you've never done it before. But it happens. If you've been at your job, you should honestly be getting a raise and an increase to your salary yearly. With the way that inflation and cost of living are raising, if at a bare minimum, you should be getting an increase to your salary based on the cost of living. But if you are killing it at your job, then you need to look into an even bigger raise of a merit performance raise.
Yeah, and I think that's something I feel very, very strongly about. I know that I've like told you in the past, I'm like, you need to
and you have helped me with crafting the language, crafting the message. So I'm going to toss it to you to really share your insights on that. But as someone who does it on a regular basis, I will say I probably wasn't doing it yearly. I was doing it more every other year, but I was asking for more than just $1,000 more.
Yeah, you were asking
I was asking for significant changes and getting them approved. Maybe not at the full amount, but raises all the same.
Yeah, and I want to underscore what you said about it. It's an uncomfortable thing to ask for more.
Yeah.
Like
especially as a woman, like to be quite fucking frank, like a woman in business, it's already tough. But if you have a male superior that you're going to ask for more money, it can be really hard.
And it can be hard to justify to yourself sometimes because we are so used to playing small. It can be hard to justify to yourself why you deserve a raise, but like be fucking brutally honest and be like, you've done X, Y, and Z work. Yeah. And I would just encourage everybody, like Ali said, to ask for a raise on at least an annual basis. You might not get the full amount. Maybe they say no entirely. And I think that's a really big sign of going where your worth is known.
But seeing like if you are renting an apartment and your rent is going up every year, every time you sign your lease, you need to be taking that forward and showing that to your employer. Like my living expenses, I'm not living somewhere more lavish. You're living in the same place.
I would never take that to an employer. And I have a friend, and this is just like you versus
and you don't have to
me.
take your exact numbers, but you can say, my rent went up 20% this year. And it's something like but my revenue is not growing. Can we have a conversation about it? Especially because I've been taking on XYZ at the company, you know?
And I would say, again, be brutally honest. Are you doing the fucking work? And if you are, like, you deserve compensation. If you're not, and you know that there are areas that you could like flesh out a little bit more, like that's something that you should work on.
And
but
I think a good like first step is jotting down, like, what are you doing at your job? And like looking at even your job description, if you have one, and seeing where you've gone outside of that. Because that's a good first starting point.
That's a really good starting point. And if you don't have a job description, ask your manager for one. You should be provided with a job description.
You should have one.
One thing that I do actually is I keep a running document throughout the year of either like accolades that I've gotten, if it's client facing work, like client testimonials. If my manager reaches out and says, oh, hey, you like really killed it on this in Slack, I like take a screenshot And I keep a running list of all the shit that I have done throughout the year in real time, because it's really hard to look back at on December 31st and be like, oh wait, what did I do in January?
Keep a running list, 100%. I have like a little scratch pad on my computer where when I close a lead, when I increase our profit by a certain percentage, when a customer says or client says like, couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah.
You just need to keep the receipts.
Keep the receipts and be able to show them when you're asking for a raise. And I think the biggest part about asking for a raise is A, being confident in yourself, and B, bringing those receipts, showing that you're not asking for this number out of like the fanciful sections of your brain. You have reasons to back up your request. I think that's really important. And I, again, just implore, demand, require that every single one of us be willing to put yourself out there and ask for that raise. And I also would implore our fellow girlies to talk with each other about what you're making. I think that it's easy. We talked about this last episode. Money is a very taboo topic. I have friends who don't want to talk about their salaries with me. And I'm gonna be honest, I think that's fucking weird, because it comes back to girls supporting girls, and you can't ask for more if you can't know that you're being underpaid. If you don't know what other people around you are being paid, you can't ask for help if you don't know where you stand in relation to other people. And you also, maybe you're on the high end of the spectrum. You can't help your fellow people if they're struggling because you are too proud to tell them what you make. And even if you're making gads and gads of money and you feel embarrassed about it, I think it's a really good way of people being able to be like, this person is making X, and you know what? If they can do it, why can't I do it? And I think it helps people inspire to something more when we're open and honest and have a true dialogue about our finances.
The website Glassdoor, I think, was really eye-opening for me when I was looking at asking for a raise, because I was able to look up similar jobs to what I'm doing, and not only the city I live in, Austin, but other markets as well. And also compare cost of living to these other markets and really be able to have a prepared case of why I should be making more for what I'm doing. So
I think that I feel very, very passionately about people being paid what they're worth. So please take a hard look and see if you feel that is that the case.
So once you've made the money,
and even honestly before you've made the money, when you were just trying to expand things, but when you are looking to just save, you have goals.
So once you've made the money and you are looking at your budget, I think the other part of this conversation is the savings part, which is so not fun because you have this money in your bank account and you want to just like spend it on a nice dinner or clothes. But there are things that every person, I feel so strongly about this, should be saving for to protect themselves for the unexpected. Because it happens. And those things, in my opinion, are big purchases. So they're not monthly expenses, but they are maybe once a year or something you're really trying to save up for. That could be anything from a vacation and a down payment for for a house. Or it could even just be like, I have Sirius XM in my car, and that's like $300 that I pay a year. So I mark it, and I'm going to put a little bit every month so that when that bigger expense hits me, it's not like, or my like annual fee on my credit card. You know?
I think that's so important. I think we talked last week again about like those in the moment monthly payments, but you can break, like you're saying, those annual payments down to make them more monthly and to make them more manageable. Because if you are operating from a zero sum budget in, like we talked about in episode 1, where every dollar in your bank account has a purpose, every dollar from your paycheck, and then at the once a year, you have your SiriusXM show up, and then all of a sudden you're negative $300 because you did not account for that purchase.
So some of the categories I do for that, I have my SiriusXM, so I pay $27 a month, so that when that $200 amount comes up, it's like we're good. Credit card annual fee, my car registration, you have that. You have that every year. Christmas gifts.
Oh, that's another good one.
$100 a month. And then by the end, you have $1,200 in savings.
Let's look at the one. I do not have as many as you. Those are really good.
Car maintenance
buckets.
Is another one. So I just put a little bit in. Medical, like big. If you contribute, some money every month, then if you have a operation that comes up or something like that, you can use that. And then the last one is my birthday, because I usually like to do a big treat myself for my birthday. So
no, that's so interesting. I call those sinking funds, and I put again a little bit each month towards those funds. And I will say, I talked in the last episode that I'm very loose with my budget. I just kind of go off of vibes, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I know my birthday's coming up next month. I'm not going to spend as much this month. But I am trying to do a lot more in line with what you're doing with the sinking funds. I have significantly fewer than you do. I have 4. I have a beauty one that's like Sephora sale, getting my hair done, stuff like that.
Yeah, treat yourself.
I have a concerts and events based off of a conversation we had recently.
Yeah.
I have like emergency fund where there's not much in there. And then I have just like a travel fund because that's something that I do. Prioritize my life.
I have some of those. I think I have all of those too. My concerts and events is maybe not as filled as I would like it to be, but usually that's one, like if I know something's on the horizon, like ACL Fest or something, I'll start putting a little bit in travel too. Like I've got a trip coming up at the end of the month, so I've got a pretty good amount, but anytime I don't have one, just put a few dollars in there, you know?
And I also save, so those are like regular expenses that we save for.
But I will say the emergency fund is one I think that should be highlighted. I think every person, even if it doesn't have as much in it as you would like, mine certainly doesn't. I think the rule I've heard is you should have at least 1 month of expenses saved in there, if not 3.
I heard like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And I will say, I've never gotten close to 3. That's a lot of money to save
just
up.
think about how I think about it is if I were to lose my job, a month is probably like at a minimum the most I would need to like be comfortable while I'm looking for another job.
Yes.
3 to 6 months, that's amazing because that means like I can rediscover if this is what I want to do and like take more time off. But I think a month at a minimum is probably a good starting point.
And I will say that sounds very scary.
It does.
It's hard to, and I think you mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, that's the mind fuck with savings. With something as tangible as your credit card payment or like the monthly annual fee, or your car maintenance. It's a very tangible thing. But when it comes to something as nebulous as...
like, am I going to need it? Am I not going to need it? It's just money that's like... Sitting.
I will be honest, I am good with money. I'm not great with saving because it doesn't feel real.
I know. But one I've just thought about too that I don't have any money in, but it's a category that I started. And again, I gotta just commit to like putting some money in it, is a future wedding fund. Weddings are not cheap. Like I've really ramped up another category, which is my Roth IRA. My retirement fund. I really just started digging into it this year. But I look at that, I'm like, I was able to save $6,500, which was 2023's contribution. And I decided in January of this year that I was going to do that. And I did that.
That's really impressive.
So I saved $6,500 in 3.5 months.
I don't think I could do that.
But it takes a discipline. It takes a discipline.
No, I don't think it's about discipline. I genuinely don't think I have enough money.
I think you do.
No, I genuinely do not. I actually scaled back my Roth IRA contributions because I had other expenses that I wanted to prioritize over it. That's very impressive.
But that's the other important part of it is if you have other expenses that you're prioritizing, that is totally okay. That's 100% okay.
That's really impressive that you did that. I legitimately, I tried. I could not do that right now.
Yeah, I've really skimmed down. But I think also with like
my income honestly doesn't allow for that to happen. You make more than I do.
Do I?
Now you do. Okay. You make more than I do now. So like you do have a little bit more.
But I don't want to ever do that again. So now I'm like, okay, Roth IRA, the contribution's $7,000. You split that up in 12 months, it's a little bit easier of a number
much easier than 3 months.
to digest.
You have literally 4 times as long. So it's a little bit easier.
But I look at that now and I'm like, okay, if I wanted to put a down payment, if I wanted to have a wedding, I could probably buckle down and really figure out like where I'm not going to spend to commit to that kind of savings.
Yeah. I will say my biggest trick for savings, and honestly, this goes back to what I talked about last week, where I'm low maintenance to be high maintenance. And I'm low maintenance in that
I love that.
I split up my paychecks automatically so I don't have to look at it. Yep. And I can be high maintenance with like my remainder. I also am low maintenance with my savings in that I automate a lot of my savings as well. So before on payday, all of those, my sinking funds that I talked about, I have a monthly contribution that that happens every time on payday. And I do not have to actively move that money over.
That's good.
So again, the money that I'm seeing in my checking account does not take in consideration some of those like monthly.
And I think sometimes that's the way you have to do it so that you don't see money and think I can spend this when you know that you have things you're trying to save for.
Yeah. And I think the phrase that gets bandied about is like pay yourself first. And that is what I do. When I contribute to my Roth IRA or I'm contributing to any of those things, I make sure that happens before I have my like fun money. Again, we talked last week about the 50-30-20 rule. And I honestly don't think that I hit that. And when I was tracking, I didn't hit it.
I do either. I'd be actually curious. I haven't looked at mine in a while to see if I actually am hitting those percentages.
My investment and savings percent, I think, is higher than what it like recommends.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Which isn't a bad thing at all. It's just, again, it comes back to like what your priorities are and like where your capabilities are at that moment.
I think too, if you're not able to hit a minimum like for your Roth IRA, like again, I was not. I've had one set up for years, and I made an initial deposit. And I did not touch it. And when I went to make that next deposit, I was like, oh, I just had some, interest accrued. That's great.
Yeah.
But I think that goes also to the APY that we were saying about savings accounts. I love it. I love SoFi. I love that they have a high APY for savings. I have a savings account with SoFi that I then have vaults in.
Yes.
And I have one for my house down payment. I have one for my emergency fund, and I have one started but not really contributed to for the wedding, because that will literally just like accrue 4.6%. So I think my last one I got like $35 just a month. And it's just like, you didn't have to do anything for it.
You don't have to do anything for it, which is a really nice feeling. If you are a person struggling with, you have money left over after you've done your expenses and your debts that we talked about last week, and you have money left over and you like just end up wanting to spend it like we talked about, I think a really important thing is to like know your why. Like, why are you saving? You mentioned weddings. You know the sort of wedding you want. You know the style. You know the like energy that you want. And you think about that when
And I also know that I don't want my parents to have to contribute a lot to it.
Yeah.
Which most parents will, but...
And same with like buying a house. You know hypothetically you or anybody else like knows their why for saving up for that. And I think I mentioned my struggle personally with saving is like how ambiguous it feels. Like, why am I saving? For like a mystery thing that might happen. But like if you can put a tangible thing to it, whether that's like the 3 to 6 months of having expense, like name it sabbatical. Don't name it emergency fund. Name it sabbatical if that's what works for you mentally.
Or if like you are really unhappy in your job and be like, I want to leave, but I can't leave unless I have another job lined up. Start putting a little bit into a emergency fund, because that will give you more freedom to leave a job that you're unhappy in and not have something immediately lined up.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit more flexibility. And like the house, like future wedding, it's all just things of like, you're trying to take care of future you with these things. And that's why sometimes a retirement fund can be hard, because in this day and age, I'm like, fuck, I might be working until I'm 75. Like with the way that things are going, like I might still have a job and a paycheck then, but I hope not. So I hope I have some money to fall back on, but also I might be dead.
That took it to a whole different level. We all might.
But then I at least will have some money to give to somebody else. when I die.
This is unrelated to what we're exactly talking about, but kind of talking about we might be dead. Do you have life insurance?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. So like if you have life insurance, that's another monthly expense that I did not mention last time.
I have mine through but I have mine through work, and they take some out of my paycheck before I even see my paycheck.
Yeah. Mine is through it's not really a third party. I have it through a different company.
But to be quite frank, to my next of kin, my parents right now, I'm like, you're getting enough to cover my debts. Like, that's it.
I think they tell you to have...
And a funeral, I guess.
For when you own a home, they do have you, like, nobody, please don't kill me right now. Anybody who's listening to this. I mean, maybe that'd be great for Nick. He's one of my beneficiaries. But like my life insurance is for $1 million because that would help pay off the home and pay for my funeral. Although
I think mine is just for my salary. So it's enough for like...
That makes sense if it's through work. Mine is not through
Mine's enough for my salary so that like it covers my debts and it covers expenses for a funeral, and that's legit. But going into like talking about assets, which your home is an asset of yours. Yeah. Cars are an asset of yours.
Like good debt, bad debt dichotomy.
But net worth is something that I've discovered more about, mainly because I'm now in the threshold where I have a positive net worth. For the longest time, I did not, because my debt's outranked how much income I had.
I think that's the fun thing about being in our 30s and now having a better handle on some of that and seeing where it goes. Is like now, I think a lot of us, maybe I'm speaking just for us, but I think listeners that you probably feel the same way, is like, you're just now in a place where you're comfortable enough. You're not living paycheck to paycheck. You have that extra income that you can feel like you have that positive net. You can see that you have a positive net worth for the first time, maybe ever, or like since you were 18.
And that's one of the things I like about YNAB is they have 2 reports that you can see with your money. One is your net worth. And I've been able to see how since I started January of 2023 to now, how I've gone from negative thousands of dollars to now positive hundreds of dollars.
You know what? But it counts.
It's going in the right direction. And then the other one is Age of Money, which is the report that talks about when you receive money and when you spend money. It's the amount of time that you have your dollar.
Interesting.
And so normally you want to be at like 30 days. Like,
that makes sense.
But I'm at like 45 now, and I'm like, yeah.
That's a great feeling.
It's a good feeling when you know that you're just not like spending money as quickly as you earn it. There's 2 factors that a year and some change, I would not have. I was like, oh, this is going to be impossible. There's no way I'm going to get there. And with just a little bit of discipline, I now preach it. Like, I think anyone can do it.
I think anyone has the potential to do it. I don't think anybody can do it immediately. I think that
it takes time.
I think what you are doing now, you said like this January 2023 version of you could not do what you're doing now.
No.
You had to like learn those steps and
ask for a raise and get more. I did get more money.
You had a very substantial raise.
But
you also had the opportunity to like live with your parents for a bit, which helped you save a lot.
I made that decision. It was not an easy decision to move back in with my family at age 30.
Yeah, but it helped you be able to save and kind of gave you that reset that you were needing. And I will say, I think it's significantly harder for people who are not partnered and who are paying for a lot of these. Like we both have the luxury of having a partner to split our rent with and to split household expenses with. And I do really feel for all of our bubblers who are single. Like, it's also great to be single, but like that, like the single tax is real. And I think that we do need to be aware of that. I think it's easy to say that anybody can do it. And like that is true to some extent. But there are some factors that are at play that allows you to do what you did.
Anyone
has a capacity.
Yeah, but I think anyone can change their mindset and work toward it. You're right, it won't happen overnight. No. It didn't happen overnight for me either.
And maybe you can't do, like I said, I don't have the capability right now with my current income, with the expenses that I have to save $6,000 in 3 months. And maybe listeners, you don't either, but like you have the capability to save $600.
Yeah.
Which
every starting point.
Every little bit matters. And something that helped me a lot when I was first in that point where I started being able to save. And actually it was before I could even save. Before I thought that I could save. I used this tool called Digit. And I think it's a full-blown app now. When I first started using it, it was just like a text-based system. I used it I was a very early adopter to this tool. But you connect it to your bank account. It monitors your regular expenses and it will siphon little bits of money out of your account at a time to put into a savings account for you. And because of the quantity of money that is taking out is so small, it's not like wrecking your system. So it would take like,
I have heard of this.
Maybe like $3 out. When I was first starting, I would take like $3 out at a time because that's all I had able to take out. And then as I like made more money and as I got a little bit more settled, it was able to take like $30 out or like maybe $15 out. And it just will take things out throughout the month and put it in a separate account for you. It does not generate interest, I will say, but it is building the habit of saving for you. And I found that to be so helpful at the end of the month to look back and be like, Digit saved me $55 that again, when I did not have a job and things were very tight for me, that I didn't know that I could save. And being able to expound on that. I think there's other systems like within SoFi, we are big proponents of SoFi. You have the ability to round purchases up to the dollar. And that's
what I was going to say is like, I saw an app, I didn't use it, but it was called Acorns, where like it rounded up your purchase to the dollar and it put that money in savings.
Yeah, and SoFi has that. So that's how I actually fund.
I want to start doing
one of my travel vaults is that any purchase I make, it rounds up to the dollar, all that extra funds goes somewhere else. Because honestly,
I'm like, that's so cool that they have that.
Think about how you make, when you see something that's $14.25, are you just like, oh, this is $15? You're already thinking that way. So that extra 75 cents doesn't like feel as impactful and you wouldn't think to save that money. So I want to reiterate for all the bubblers who maybe are just starting out on their money journey and like you will get to a place like Allie where she's able to save so much, but like there's nothing wrong with starting in like the babiest of baby steps and doing 25 cents here, 50 cents here, $1, $10, $1,000. And I really want to encourage listeners not to get discouraged because I think that there is a laddering system. Yeah. You have to build it up. You have to also, you said, I think at the beginning, like saving is a muscle. It's something that you have to build and grow. And you're not gonna, if you're starting to lift weights, you're not gonna automatically start squatting 235. Like that would be absolutely insane, but you will start squatting with the bar, which is, and you
start with $1 here, $1 there. Maybe it's $25 in a few months, and you just have to start somewhere and take it piece by piece, a little bit of the pie. And then when you start to see that money grow, and especially if you have it in a high yield savings account, you'll see it grow even quicker. And will just get you excited about putting money aside for future you to have.
And I would also say another angle of saving, and I wish I'd brought this up with debts, because when I was going ham on trying to like pay down my student loans and like pay down credit card debt, it's easy to get so caught up in like, I can't spend any more money. All of this has to go to debt. Or like, I can't spend this because it all has to go to savings. And like, reward yourself.
Yeah.
Like I would set rewards when I had paid off like half of my credit card. I'd be like, I can take myself out to a really nice meal. And I'm not putting the whole balance back on, but like,
no, but yeah,
I did this thing and I'm proud of it. Or like when I saved up to X amount of money, I was like, you know what? Because I've saved, I literally thought this the other day. I was like, I saved up X amount of dollars. I'm going to buy this pair of shoes that I've been like holding on the back burner because I told myself I didn't need them. And I get to
just
reward
little moments
myself.
Of like gratification for reaching goals and little goals. Set little goals for you to hit along the way. I think I do that with all these things. I'm like, if I can make it through these 6 hours of meeting, I will let myself take a quick little snack break and read 2 chapters in my book and then go back into it, and it's just like little things. You do it in every aspect of your life. So why not do it with your finances?
And that's like such an everyday bubbly tip for life. Is like we believe in celebrating things.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing is like, don't get discouraged. If you don't feel like you're saving as much as the person next to you, literally the person next to me right now, or if you feel like you're not making where you want to be making, all of these things are a step and all of these things are a journey. And I mean, going back to the beginning of our episode, like making money and how hard that is and like how it's hard to negotiate. I will say that like my first job, when I finally got a job here in Austin, paid me so little. I literally was below the poverty line based off of my salary. And I negotiated and they told me no. And I was like, okay, fine. But it never stopped me from negotiating again. And whether or not I got the full amount that I asked for, it never stopped me from doing that. And I want that to be true for saving as well.
Agreed. Yeah. I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Wow, that was really powerful. But yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. And don't get discouraged because it's easy to not feel like you're doing enough, especially.
Start small. If you see a pair of shoes or you found a jacket or you want to save a little bit so that next month your rent bill doesn't hit you as hard with your paycheck. You just have to set a small goal and just start towards it.
Yeah.
All right.
What is your song of the week?
So my song of the week is, why don't you go first? Okay. I have to remember what.
Yeah, let me pull. Mine
was Seven Rings by Ariana Grande. we were, it's funny, after our first episode, we were looking at like songs that had to do with money, and that song stood out because I just love how it has the Sound of Music like tie into it, but it's also like, I want it, I got it.